Good day, good day, good day, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are doing well on this Thursday. I am Rev Melissa, and this is Sip with Rev Melissa. And Sip is Spirit in Practice. Spirit in Practice, Heike Diego. So I'm going to get right into it today. And first, I want to say what I always say: perfection is in the practice, yes. And Mark Nepo says, life is an endless practice. Life is an endless practice. And so this week, we are practicing being earnest about what it is that we want, being earnest about our quality, right? And so, just as a reminder, the definition of earnest is serious and zealous in our intention, sincerity of feeling, it's a pledge or a promise, and it's an indication of what is to follow. An indication of what is to follow in Mayat. So the other day we were digging into the word zealous, right? And I love the definition of zealous: being ardently active, devout devotion, enthusiastic diligence. I have written those three. I have written those three words on a card, and I have it in my office now. Ardently, I question myself, am I being ardently active right now? Is what I'm doing part of what I'm devoted to doing? And is my feeling tone enthusiastic about it? Right? And so I get mixed results of that, and it's all good, right? It's just about being aware of where I am in any given moment and then making adjustments, right? So if I'm not feeling enthusiastic, okay, I could take a pause, I could go within, I could clear up whatever needs to get cleared up, and I could get into that feeling tone of joy and enthusiasm, right? I can activate that within myself, right? And the power of knowing that we can activate whatever within ourselves is powerful. It is powerful that we don't need any external stimuli to do that for us. We could stimulate ourselves, right? We could stimulate ourselves. So we know it works. And you will know it works by working it, by being in the practice of it, right, Stacy? By being in the practice of it. So, yesterday I was sharing about the power of writing it down and making it plain, right? We have that Bible verse: write it down, make it plain. Yes? And so I went digging around to find out some of the science behind writing things down with your hand, not typing it in, to write it down with your hand. And so I want to share some of that with you today because it was fascinating. It was fascinating. And I'm not even like at the tip of the iceberg. I've just got like a teeny tiny bit of the information. So I'm going back in because I'm like just really fascinated by the technology of that's in our hands, right? The technology that our hands are is amazing. So here's some information. Right, by writing it down using our hand, it activates a part of our brain that's involved in thinking and the working memory. And it allows us to store and manage information differently and more deeply, right? The actual movement of our hands, right? The movement associated with the pen in our hand can help us to encode and retain information long term. So, we have short term memory, we have long term memory. The power of writing it down, the movement, right? The rhythm, right? The harmony of writing it down activates encoding in our brain, right? I just lost you all. Let me see. Okay. Encoding in our brain. Yes? So, by writing it down, just the process of writing it down, it helps us to think more thoroughly, right? It helps us to think more clearly, and it helps to form connections in our brain. And it sharpens our critical thinking, and it helps us to focus our attention on what it is that we're writing, because we're writing down what we want, right? So it helps to focus our attention on what it is that we want and not on what we don't want. Who's writing down what they don't want? If anybody is spending time writing down what you don't want, stop. Stop. Break the emergency glass. Stop right now. Stop right now. And the reason why you want to stop that right now is because the universe says yes to everything. So if you're saying, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, the universe is saying, okay, yes, let me give you more of what you don't want, right? So we want to focus ourselves and write down, right, Pastor Al? We're writing down what it is that we want. We're going to focus our attention, and our handwriting helps us to do that. Handwriting focuses your brain to mentally engage with what you are writing, and it activates a sector in our brain where our imagination is, right? So now we're getting into consciousness, we're getting into mindset, we're getting into a different level of engagement, right? Energy, yes, consciousness, in the flow, right? In that unlimited potential, right? That's where we're engaging at, right? Because handwriting is a neurosensory activator. A neurosensory activator. And guess what? Guess what, mommy? Fewer than 20% of people actually write down their goals. So it's not common. It's not common for people to write down their goals. And that's why most people are living a life that they don't necessarily want to be living, in the sense of what they're experiencing, in the sense of what it is that they're here to do, in the sense of living in their purpose, right? So handwriting activates the encoding, right? So it's a biological process. It's a biological process. So this means that the things we perceive travel to a part of our brain, and I know I'm getting into the neuroscience of it all, but it's fascinating. It travels to the part of our brain, which is the hippocampus, where it's analyzed and has a greater chance of being remembered, right? And this is why we say our affirmations every day. This is why we write down our affirmations. This is why we write down our quality. This is why we're writing down the things that we desire. And it has a generation effect. So I want to read what that means. So this is from an article in Forbes magazine, Forbes.com, titled Neuroscience Explains Why You Need to Write Down Your Goals If You Actually Want to Achieve Them. Neuropsychologists have identified the generation effect, which basically says individuals demonstrate better memory for material they generated themselves than for material they merely read. Okay. It's a nice edge to have. And when you write down your goals, you get to access the generation effect twice. First, when you generate the goal, right? Create a picture in your mind. And second, when you write it down, because you're essentially reprocessing or regenerating that image. You have to rethink your mental picture, put it on paper, And our visioning board is powerful, right? Because it talks about placing objects, scale them, think about the spatial relationship. They even said to draw facial expression, like smiley faces around your goals, right? So there's a lot of cognitive processing that's taking place. And in essence, you get a double whammy that really sears the goal into your brain, right? So writing things down doesn't just help us to remember, it makes our mind more efficient by focusing us on what truly is important, focusing us on the important stuff. And your goals absolutely should qualify as truly important stuff. I love all of that. So it's just not some exercise we're doing just for the sake of it, right? It has a biological effect. It has a effect on our brain. It has an effect on our mindset. It has an effect on what it is that we are attracting to us. And we know this, right? So it's one thing to know it, and it's another thing to actually do something about it, right? And we often call that walking the talk. So are you just watching sip, or are you walking the sip? Are you walking the talk? Are you doing this? Right? We're spending all week and we'll spend next week really solidifying what it is that we want to express as our quality, right? So if you haven't started yet, start now by being earnest about writing down what you want. So we are being ardently active, devout in our devotion, enthusiastically diligent, right? About writing down what we want. The universe is waiting to take your order, waiting to take your order. So let's get our order in. Let's get our order in. Start now. So when something comes to mind, just write it down, right? It might not all come in one sitting. Give yourself the space for it to come through, and then just write it down. Write it down and just keep writing it down. Don't analyze it. Don't judge it. Don't say, oh, I can't have that. Only thing you're doing is writing it down. That's it. All right? All right. So tomorrow we're going to wrap up Earnest. We're going to do a roll call tomorrow in case folks forgot what their quality is. And I wanted to share before I go into Joy News. I had mentioned the other day about It Works, right? And I told you all that y'all can get it on Amazon. And while you're there, you could order some extra copies for Sekou because he gives these out to the unhoused. So it's on his wish list in Amazon. So you can do that. That'll be wonderful. And you can also access it via PDF online. So this is a pamphlet. So Sekou has been talking about on his show, the Be Your Own Hero show that comes on at 9:45, about us doing our how-to guide, right? And so this is a template that I can use for my how-to guide. So I started doing that, right? I started doing that. I was so proud of myself. So I started doing because it's scary, y'all. I've never done it before, right? So if it's what Brene Brown calls a FFT, the freaking first time, but she uses a different F word. So it might be all of ours freaking first time. And it's okay to feel nervous. It's even okay to feel like you can't do it. It's okay. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you. So when I found this pamphlet, I realized that I have a bunch of how-to pamphlets. So I have this pamphlet from Silent Unity, The Light That Shines for You, right? How to Shine Your Light. The Magic of Tithing by Emmett Fox. Now that would have been good for my sermon that other Sunday. But here it is, The Magic of Tithing. So how to tithe. As a Man Thinketh right? This is a classic. If you don't have this, you need to get this in your life right away, by James Allen. A Step Towards Peace by Peace Pilgrim, right? How to find peace. Classic, The 7-Day Mental Diet, Emmett Fox. I never thought about this as a guide, a how-to guide, but it is, right? Mm-hmm. How to Combat Fear in Troubled Times by Joyce Myers. Ha! The Healing Word by Joyce Myers, right? A Guide to Spiritual Growth. What? Mm-hmm. And this one's called a book, but it's really a guide. The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. They're all little, they're just, straight to the point, how to, with some examples and stories. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. So I have selected my how-to that I'm working on. And my how-to is how to create a spiritual practice that works for you. Yes, yes, yes. So that is my how-to guide that I'm working on. I'm excited. I'm grateful to Sekou for giving us this assignment. And again, just start. Just start. You could start by one of your goals of what it is that you want, because this is on my list now. I want to create, and I use that word loosely, how-to guides, and then I have a couple of those listed, right? So now that's on my what I want. What I want is to write these how-to guides, right? To gather up the information, right? So I wanted to share that as an example. Ronald, I see you. You said, can you put those down? So you want me to write down all of the guys that I just said? I'll do that. So I'll put it on my page, on my Facebook page, and you can have at it there. All right? All right. Yes, Linda, I love combining neuroscience into practical manifestation. Me too. Me too. I really do. I really do enjoy that. So I hope that has been helpful. Do your homework, do my homework, do Sekou's homework, do your work. Because why? Because it works. Hey, it works. It works. It works. If you work. If you work. All right. And you know what? Even as I say that, it works regardless if you work or not. So what I mean by that is, if you ain't doing the work, it works because it's going to give you more of the work you ain't doing. You're just going to keep experiencing what you are experiencing. And so it's working. It's always working. Okay? So if you want a different experience of the work, of how you live in your life, then you will work differently. You'll work differently, right? You'll use these tools. You'll use the technology, right? You'll use the principles. All right. All right. I see you, mommy. Send me the guides, please. Y'all know what? See, this is my mama. So I'm just going to say yes to my mother. I'm just going to say yes to my mother. But the rest of y'all, I will put the information on my page and you can go and get them. Okay? All right. So let's get into some joy news. So I'm still hyped up, y'all, on the Apollo Theater from Wednesday, participating in the Healing, Joy, and Liberation, Mental Health and the Arts, representing joy. And if you missed it, the replay is still available. So you can go to my website, iamrevmelissa.com, and the link is there to watch the replay. So thank you again, everyone, for your love, your support. For those of you who posted it on your Facebook pages with pictures and everything, I really, really, really appreciate it. I was so hyped yesterday that I just crashed at some point and called myself taking a nap and was sleeping for 4 hours and then was up all night. Y'all, I didn't go to bed till 3:30 this morning. I could not go to sleep. I was just so wired. So I'm gently, working with my body to get back in sync with a rhythm that is more conducive to what I need it to be. So thank you again. This Sunday, Living Life in Joy, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We're celebrating Women's History Month. And our guest this weekend, this Sunday, is Martine Corley. Corlaw. I have to ask her how to pronounce her last name. Kallaw. And she is dynamic. She's a consultant, trainer, author, and speaker. She has an incredible journey story about how she became a citizen of the United States. And also, she is in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So she's going to share her connection to her yes and her journey to getting to that yes with us on Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Right after, we have Sunday in Praise at Rockland CSL, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And our theme for March is God is my source. God is my source. And this Sunday, the topic is fear, faith, and feats. Oh my. Fear, faith, and feats. Oh my. So that's where we're going. And we're going to be digging into the law of goal setting, which is the second law of spiritual prosperity. We have a new class starting next Tuesday, March 15th, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The investment is $125. The class is Practicing the Presence of Abundance. And the text that we're using is Edwin Gaines. You see that? The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And I've shared, whoever registers from the Congregation of Joy will receive a free copy. So I need to go back and check to see who has registered so I could get the free copy out. So basically, we're learning how to practice experiencing God as our source for everything. For everything. We're experiencing living life as abundance, right? Using the technology of spiritual psychology and spiritual practices and spiritual principles. So it's going to be a dynamic 5-week class. So please sign up. You can do so via my website. Oh, I see you, Heike. Heike registered. Okay, Heike. Wonderful, wonderful. Save the date, April 23rd, 6 p.m. We're going to have a trunk show. We're doing another trunk show with Gladys Williams, Asante Jules. If you missed the one we had last year, you don't want to miss this one. It's in time for Mother's Day. So I will be sharing more information about that. April 23rd, 6 p.m. on Zoom. And then May 22nd, 11:30 to 4:30, I'm the keynote speaker at a women's empowerment brunch called Control Alt Delete in Pocono Summit, Pennsylvania. The cost is $35, and you can find out more information on my website, iamrevmelissa.com. And last thing I want to share before I check in with Sekou, I am so hot. Do you see me sweating? Goodness gracious. The last thing I want to share is April 6th, 2022 is our 2nd year anniversary of SIP. 2 years, y'all, of just glory, doing SIP almost every single day for 2 years. Mind blown. Yes. So I just want to plant the seeds now. That week, yes, it's a big old wow, Stacy. That week is our anniversary celebration week, because one of my C words is celebration. So we're celebrating from April 4th to April 8th. And so any ideas y'all have about how we could celebrate SIP this time, our second anniversary of it? So I'm open to receiving your ideas. You could put them in the comments, or you could DM me. I just want to, get some ideas circulating. All right. So let me check in with Sekou.
It's just an exciting day all around. There's just so much hype. There's so much hype between the two of us. So in case you haven't seen my show today or my run report, I'm very excited because I reached my goal We all collectively have completed my third charity run for Mr. Charles. We are in the overflow, as Rev Mel says. The goal was $1,000 to be raised for Mr. Charles. Last I checked, we were at 1,013. So boom, boom, very exciting, very exciting. If you missed the whole story about who Mr. Charles is, go back and watch the replays. Go back and check my show, or check my run report today on social media. It's on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's the condensed version of who Mr. Charles is and why we're helping him. But I'm very excited about that. Very excited about you. 2 years of doing this. And as soon as you said that, I was like, wait, I got to figure out how long I've been doing my show. You know, because I was right behind you, right? So I got to figure, shoot, I might have missed the anniversary already. So there's that. And I also wrote down some notes because we were on In Sync today without even intending to be. You were talking about external stimuli earlier in your show.
Yeah.
And today on my show, I read from the Dalai Lama about chasing pleasure instead of happiness. And I was talking about how pleasure is external, but happiness is internal. So once again, we in sync without even needing to be, without having a meeting. We just happen to be in sync. And I can't even read my writing. I took a note about what I wanted to say. Oh, writing down what you don't want. You talked about that, and that just reminded me of my own story that made me laugh. For years, for New Year's Eve, I would write down all the things I didn't want and put it in a burning bowl and burn it, but I would write down a copy so that I can remember what I didn't want. And I would keep the copy on my bookshelf so I can remember what I wrote down and I was forgetting. It still makes me laugh to this day. I found those notes during the pandemic. Like, that's how recent it is. I found them during the pandemic in this house in Nashville. And I was like, I got to burn this. I got to burn all this stuff. Why am I keeping all this? I had to burn the copies of the notes that I was keeping before. So as soon as you said that, today I started thinking about it again. I was laughing to myself. OMG. I thought I was doing something. Yeah, Heike. Yeah. It wasn't funny then. It wasn't funny. It's funny now. But it wasn't funny then. I was like, that's what's been holding me. I've been holding myself back. Keeping a copy of the stuff I'm trying to get rid of. Anyway. That's all I got.
I love that. I love that. So if anybody is doing that, stop. Stop. Don't do that. You don't want to remember what you don't want. And you don't want to remember what you're releasing and letting go. You don't want to remember that. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Because it's taking up space. It's taking up space. It's taking up energy, right? You're still tethered to it. So let it go. All right. Thank you so much, Sekou. Thank you, everybody, for being with me live today. Thank you for all of your well wishes and congratulations. And think about how we're going to celebrate our second anniversary the week of April 4th. All right. All right. So we're going to wrap it up tomorrow. We're going to do a roll call of our quality, and peace and blessings. Peace and justice. We're living life in joy, connected to our yes.